What's up? Despite his loss in the previous round, FIROUZJA still being in the top of the leaderboard, and praggnanandhaa is not having his best tournament. So let's see what happened in his face in the 7th round. Okay, Pragg open with e4, e5 by FIROUZJA, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f3, d3, bishop c5, and here Pragg made a sideline. Of course, here normal moves are short castle, or c3, knight c3. Are the typical ways to play with white, but okay. Nowadays with the machines and general everything is playable nowadays. So Pragg play a3. The idea is leave the main theory and just play a slowly game. Here FIROUZJA respond with a6. It's not my favorite move. I prefer maybe d6 followed by short castle and later decide if I'm going to play a6 or a5. Short castle is playable too before just bishop b6. a5 is another possibility, but here white can play, for example, bishop e3. And this plan for white is very interesting. Look strange because we are having this bishop on a2, but after knight c3, black have no good breakthroughs, and one day white is going to break with d5, taking all the space in the center. So, but really impressed me this idea of bishop a2 followed by c4. I don't remember to watch this before. Okay, FIROUZJA play a6, and now bishop e3 by Pragg. So, and now FIROUZJA should decide what to do with the bishop, because okay, white is threatening bishop c5. Two main responses are or just trade the bishop with bishop e3 or d6 defending the bishop. With both moves, we're going to have a change in the structure, because if black takes on e3, now the file is open, so we're having a change in the structure. And if white plays d6, sorry, black plays d6, white have the option of take on c5, changing the structure too. But okay, later we're going to discuss this pawn structure. The other options here are queen e7, who is a bad move, don't make that. I played queen e7 so 2 months ago in a classical game and I lost, because okay, knight c3, knight d5 is coming, very annoying. So queen e7 is not good. And okay, bishop e7, okay, it's playable, but not the best way to defend the bishop. So d6 play by FIROUZJA, for example, if you take on e3, here the game could go like this. And you should take care always with black against the sacrifices, of course. But okay, FIROUZJA played d6, the natural move, and Pragg, he doesn't take on c5 directly, he just develop his pieces first, knight e2, queen e2. This could be a possibility. And finally, after rook e8, Pragg, first he played bishop e2, and finally they change the pawn structure. And that's the position that I want to put the focus, because okay, now both bishops are traded and we have a change in the structure, because the d pawn goes to c5. And what do you think that this benefits, white or black? It's not clear, because okay, now black have a more advanced pawn on c5 who is blockading the breakthrough on c4. Now the typical breakthrough in this type of position used to be c3, d4. But now after d takes, now the d4 breakthrough is completely blockaded. And okay, the bad things for the c5 pawn is that these squares are going to be a little bit weak one day, because black have no the breakthrough on d5. White lost the d4 breakthrough, but black lost the d5 breakthrough. But in general, the machine say that the position is equal, but I prefer a little bit the white position, because white have a plan who is like place a knight on c4, place the other knight on e3, and break with f4 one day. And black have no breakthroughs. That's the problem of black position. In general, when you didn't have breakthroughs in chess, it's not good. And in this position, black have no breakthroughs, because okay, in the queen side he have double pawn, so he can make nothing. He lost the d5 breakthrough. f5 is never possible here, because the e5 pawn is going to be so weak. So here black have no breakthroughs. He can just wait with the pieces and keep a solid position with knight d4, rook d6. Okay, he can keep a solid position, but he have no active plan. So for that reason, I prefer white position. Specifically because okay, white have the plan of place here a knight. For example, place here the other knight. Okay, I'm going to make this arrows like this. Place one knight on e3, the other knight on c4, and prepare the breakthrough with f4. That's the white plan, and it's not clear what is the black plan. Okay, here Firouzja play h6. I'm not a huge fan of h6 because, okay, one day a knight is going to jump to f5 or is going to threat f5 and you should play g6. So mixed g6 and h6 have no huge sense. So I'm not a huge fan of h6. I analyze the move queen d7 to see how the game can continue and to see what are the best plans for both sides. For example, queen d7 is a good move. Knight c4, b5, knight d3, knight d4, queen d1, rook here. This could be a possible continuation. Let's see that black just maintain a solid position. And if black doesn't make nothing, for example, knight h5, knight f6, here that's the white plan, play f4 one day. So with white we should place a knight on e3, the other one can go to h4, and just push g3, f4. And black should wait in a position like this, with the king on g7, the rook on e8 and on d8, the knight on d4. With black we should wait in this, more or less in this position. And with white the plan is push g3, f4. But that's the problem, that with black we can just only wait. And place well the pieces, play b5 if we can, and just wait. And white have more active plans. For example, king g7 here is 3, rook b6, and if black just wait, okay, white is making small progress, but okay, black position is solid, of course. And black have no active plans, but the position is very solid. I analyze a4 too, with the idea, okay, trying to take control of the b5 square. For example, a5 here is a huge mistake who Firouzja made in the game, so later we're going to see why a5 is so bad. But okay, the general idea is that knight c4, we have knight c4 and b5 is never possible. That's simply why a5 is very bad. b6 is the best move here. Knight c4, rook d8, knight d3. So typical, king with one knight to b3 and the other one to c4. Okay, here we return. Like I said, the position is very, very slowly. For example, this is another possibility, and here we have a5. That's why here b6 is the best move by black. So instead of position, if white plays a4, we should respond with b6. Because if we respond with a5, now the c4 square is free for the knight. And if we play rook a8, after a5, again the same. The knight is coming to c4. So that's why b6 is the best move. b6 is the best move, avoiding knight c4. Knight c4 anyway, but okay, at least one day we're going to have b5. Maybe not now, but later we're going to have b5. For example, rook d8, knight d3. And that's again that the position that I saw previously. Okay, rook a8. Here, for example, a5. Now knight h5 coming fast to the attack, or with f5 or with rook e6. Maybe f5 is not possible, but black should go fast, because if not, positionally, if black doesn't make nothing, if black just wait with g6, here the knight is landing here, the other one is coming to c4, and later white is going to prepare a g3, f4 breakthrough. So black should play active with knight h5, for example, rook h6. This could be a possibility for black. But now black position is fine, because let's see that the d3 pawn now is weak. So if the white pawn is on c3, black have no problems in the position, because the d3 pawn is weak. For example, king h1. This could be another line. But okay, this is the best counterplay for black. Try to activate the pieces. If he just white is better with the pawn on a5. So okay, this is what could happen with queen d7 by Firouzja, but okay, he play h6. It's not my favorite move, but okay, doesn't matter so much to make this move. a4 by Pragg, and here Firouzja made the mistake that I mentioned previously. Here he should play b6, keeping the pawn on a6 to be ready to play b5 one day. Instead of that, he made a very huge mistake with a5, very bad positioning move, because now knight c5 and b5 is going to be very hard to play, of course. Queen d7 and g3, good move, controlling f4, controlling h4. Now white plan is going to be play f4 one day. d6, and here Prague play king g2, but knight h4 was stronger, just going to e3 with the knight. We should improve the knights. Knight h4, knight d4, queen d1, of course. Now f5 is covered, so we have the other route of g2, e3 with the knight. That's why here king g2 have no so much sense, because sometimes we need the route to the knight to arrive on e3. That's why king g2 have no so much sense. So knight h5, very good move here. Knight d4, queen d1. For example, knight e8 is the most typical plan of black, to play knight d6. And if black manages to play knight d6, black is going to be more or less fine. So for that reason, always that black goes back with knight e8, we should respond with f4. That's the key move. It's very typical in chess when our opponent goes back with a knight. To regroup the piece, we should break the center or break the position on advance a pawn. The majority of the time when our opponent goes back with a knight. So that's very important. After knight e8, respond with f4. For example, rook f8, knight d2, and if knight e8, the same, f4. That's the best move. Takes, and white is better. Because if we just play a quiet move like knight d3, after knight d6, black is fine, because finally black managed to control the c4 square, who is very important. And if black managed to trade one pair of knight, he have no huge problems. So remember that after we should face knight e8 with f4. And if your opponent having the opportunity of if your opponent have the knight, for example, on f3, and you have the opportunity of play knight e8, knight d6 without allowed f4, made it with the black pieces. Okay, here I analyze rook d8 too, but this is the same, knight d2. For example, if g6, now f4 is a good breakthrough. It's okay, the f file is weaker, and with the knight on f6. So against g6, f4 used to be another good move. So remember that, okay, f4 in general is the plan, but especially if your opponent plays g6 or knight e8, f4 is harder. So for example, rook e8 is another possibility, knight e3, and if black waits, we just can improve the knight, and finally after all the improvement, just break with f4. So that's the black plan. This position shows very well the white plan, sorry. Put a knight on c4, the other knight on e3, and play g3, f4. That's the white plan. In this position, and white is winning. So for that reason, black should keep a pawn on a6 to can eject the knight from c4. This is a very, very interesting game. By the way, instead of that, Prague play king g2. And here, the best move by FIROUZJA, I'm sure that all of you know who is the best move here, was knight e8. Going with knight d6, knight d4, and trying to equalize the game. FIROUZJA doesn't understand the position, and he played rook d8. b3 by Prague, giving another opportunity to FIROUZJA to play knight e8. But again, he doesn't understand the position, and he played rook e7, rook e1, queen e6. Here, knight h4 is a good move. Knight e3 is playable, bringing the other knight to c4, but okay, I like knight h4. You are coming with f4, knight f5, knight d3, so I really like knight h4, knight d4, queen d1, rook d7. And here, Prague play knight e3, who is very strange, because like I say that with white we want a knight on e3 and the other knight on c4. So I don't know why Prague moved his knight from c4, who is perfectly placed. Here, I really like this move, h3. The idea is just cover the g4 square and play f4 in the next move. I really like h3. Another options are, for example, king g1 with the idea of knight g1, knight e3. And if knight e8, as always, f4, of course. Or king h1 is another possibility to make the same plan, knight g2, knight e3. But here there are the two good plans, or h3 followed by f4, or just move the king to play knight g2, knight d3 followed by f4, and if black plays knight e8, f4 here. Okay, knight e3 by Prague. I don't like this move, because the problem of this move is that allows c6, and now b5 is coming. He played knight f3, b5, knight d2. Okay, Prague made a plan to take the a5 pawn, but black is going to have huge counterplay for the pawn. Here, f4 was stronger, using the fact that the queen returned to e7. f4 was the best move. But okay, queen e1, okay. White is going to take the a5 pawn, but black is going to have a very active position. g6 takes queen a5, but no, rook e7. White finally managed to take a pawn, but black is going to activate his pieces a lot. Let's see that he having double pawns here. Now he have these good pawns covering the c4 square. This knight is a beast in the center, and now we are going to see that the other black pieces are going to be active. Now rook a2, very active piece. Knight f3, b4. Queen here, knight takes, and rook d4. And black is playing very well in this part of the game, activating so much his pieces. Queen e7, rook d8. And here, well, Pragg made FIROUZJA made a mistake, but okay, because he missed a tactic, sacrificing a exchange. Here he played rook a5, who looks like a very normal move, trying to make the draw, and yes, just give checks to the queen and make a draw, because it looks like the queen is trapped. But Pragg had a very interesting idea to refute that, with queen c6, rook a6, and here the tactic of rook a1. I really like this move, because okay, if you can play queen b5, but rook a5 all the time, so I really like this move. Rook a1, the only move to avoid the draw. And the idea, of course, if black takes here, white takes here. And after rook a1, here he sacrifices the exchange. But white have huge counterplay, because okay, white have one pawn and a knight for the rook, but this knight is a beast, the f-file is open and white is attacking, the rook is under attack, especially the black king is very weak, so the knight is coming here with so much danger, so I really like the exchange sacrifice by Pragg. FIROUZJA should have played, instead of rook a5 first, pawn takes, rook takes, and here knight h5. The idea of knight h5 is of course leave the f6 square, because now black have this 3 for repetition. Because okay, the rook here is not more possible because now the knight is not hanging on f6. That's the idea of take first on a4 and later knight h5. I suppose that FIROUZJA thought that he could make the draw with rook a5, rook a6, and maybe he misses the exchange sacrifice, who was very good by Pragg. Rook takes, queen takes, and like I say, the white have just counterplay. Here rook d7 was slightly better, and here white have two good moves, but my favorite is rook f2, keeping pieces over the board and just keeping the rook to attack. When we are exchanged down, it used to be better to have a rook and a knight against two rook than just one knight against one rook. Because okay, when our opponent have two rooks, the rooks have less value than if he have just one, and we just have one. So our first rook have more value than his second rook. For example, rook a6, queen here, and white is slightly better here. Rook f8, and again, Pragg could take on e5, but he made the best move, rook f2, keeping pieces over the board. F takes, queen takes. Now attacking here, this file is open, the knight is landing here. And here, FIROUZJA made the decisive mistake, but okay, the position is very hard to play, of course. Here the only move was f5, of course it's very hard. White is threatening take on h6, so FIROUZJA just moved the pawn, but the best move was f5, queen takes, and now queen g7. Queen here takes, and this position, okay, is better for white because he has 3 pawns for the exchange, but this black is still being more or less in the game. He has some options. But with h5, now 95, great move, f5. And here was strange that Pragg played queen e5, where queen g5 looks more logical, just attacking g6 and pinning the pawn. Because if rook h6, for example, knight e7, and we can take here. And if queen g7, just take and knight e7, and okay, maybe he missed this tactic call. It's easy to miss, especially without time in the clock. So okay, queen e5 is a normal move too. And here, again, the only defense was king h7. Because FIROUZJA play queen f7, but queen d6 is the idea of white. And if you play king h7, white is going to play queen d6 anyway. So why force white to make this move? Better save the king and just wait. So queen f3 was the last mistake by FIROUZJA, I think. So after that, Pragg won good the game because the black king is very exposed and this knight is a completely beast. Queen g7. Let's see that FIROUZJA loses 2 tempos with queen f7 and queen g7, and then yes, rook e7. If, for example, if king here, rook e7, and Pragg won a very good game. So yes, I really enjoy this game, especially the middle game. I think that we can learn so much about this middle game and the ideas of the pawn on a4, on the pawn on a5, the knights on c4 and e3, the breakthrough with f4, the plan of 98, 96. The middle game was very interesting. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy this game. Just left 3 rounds to end this game, and FIROUZJA loses the leadership. So let's see if he can come back. Bye bye.